After I did my spiel? What she said. Do you want to?
If there's questions.
Should be pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, you got it.
Just want to make sure.
I wonder if I heard it. Does he know where he got it? The 6 degrees separation.
Does anybody need a packet? No, you good? Okay. Did you want one? Yeah.
Good evening. Okay.
Your microphone went off.
Military.
Hey, ma'am. Hey, how you doing? Good. Do you need one? You good? Okay. Oh, you didn't come to my school. Which one? Okay. First one down to McMuscle. The guy said he picked. Yeah. Maybe that's where it is. Could be him.
Test.
Okay. Ready? Okay.
Good evening. I'll call the September 20th.
Good phone. Yep, be careful for your mics, everybody. I've got my choice. The September 20th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting to order. We'll first start off with the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ms. Adams, may I have a roll call?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman. Ms. Townsend?
Here.
Ms. Butler?
Here.
Mr. Moyer?
Here.
Ms. Pearson?
Here.
Ms. Thomas?
Here.
Mr. La Rochelle? Dr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Bennett?
Here.
Mr. Tiller?
Here.
Ms. Rose?
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the August 16th, 2021 meeting. Are there any questions, edits?
Madam Chair, I have two that I foresee. Page 6, paragraph 1, fifth line down in the middle, I believe after Mr. Tunzel, it should be owned, not owner. Same page, fifth paragraph down, eighth line. The line starts with developer was distribution. I think the word distribution should be distributing.
I had submitted some edits to Ms. Adams this afternoon. I believe she printed them off as well.
I have some changes. Page 5, Madam Chair. Page 5,
Yes, ma'am.
third paragraph down. I believe it should be stated he thought instead of be. Also, the next sentence when it says, well, sentence after that one, it says Mr. Horsley stated that it was true and they would still have to submit. I believe that should be the changes to the board. And if you go back up to that first paragraph, I don't know if you want to keep it simple, which is Miss. You have Mrs. for the paragraph before that, and then Miss for the third paragraph. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Any other changes, recommendations? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes with the corrections noted.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Chairman. To approve the August 16, 2021 minutes with the noted corrections from Mr. Bennett, Ms. Thomas, and Ms. Rose. How say you, Mr. Moyer?
Abstain.
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Dr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Tiller?
Abstain.
Ms. Butler?
Abstain.
Ms. Townsend?
Abstain.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Thomas?
Aye.
Ms. Rose?
Aye.
You do have a vote of 6-0, so.
The next agenda item is the citizen comment period. Let the record state that there was no one signed up for the comment period. And Kelly, there are no presentations tonight? Okay. There's no unfinished business, so the next order of business is the joint public hearing on the application ZM 03-21. I'll turn that over to the public hearing chair. Oh,
Excuse me. Hello.
yeah, sorry.
Since this is a joint public hearing, if the board could have the floor for just a second so that they can convene and call their meeting to order so we can conduct business
Okay,
together.
thank you.
All right, I call the Board of Supervisors meeting for September 20th, 2021 to order. Ms. Yitzi, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Edelman? Mr. Tiller?
Here.
Mr. Steers?
Here. Here.
Ms. Butler?
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we have one public hearing before us. It has been properly advertised for tonight's consideration. Let me take a moment to review the procedures that we will use for tonight's hearings. Each public hearing will be considered separately. Staff will give a brief overview of the hearing that is before us. The sponsor of the case will be given an opportunity to make a presentation. Commissioners will be given an opportunity to ask questions of the sponsors or staff for clarification purposes. I will then open the citizens' comment portion of the public hearing and receive your comments. The sign-up sheet is located on the desk by the front door of the building, and I ask the following. Come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, address your comments to the commission, limit your comments to 3 minutes. When the timer sounds, please conclude your remarks. And please note that the commission members will not answer your questions during the citizens' comment period, but will certainly take those questions and comments into consideration during the deliberation period of the public hearing. And now I will open the public hearing for application ZM-03-21, John Kenney Rezoning.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Just going to give a brief overview of the rezoning before us this evening, and Mr. Kenney is here and he is available to answer any questions. Mr. Jonathan Kenney has requested the rezoning of approximately 1.42 acres of land across the street here from R2 to Courthouse Development District. The property is located at 11930 New Kent Highway, just west of the Ordinary. The proposed use for the property involves converting the building into administrative offices for the Ordinary. The future land use map designates the subject property as village. Villages are intended to involve a mixture of land uses on a smaller pedestrian scale. New Kent Courthouse is currently home to several county businesses, the Maidstone Development, Corinth Church, New Kent County School and Administrative Offices, the post office, and a few residential areas. The application was reviewed by VDOT, Public Utilities, the Sheriff's Department, Fire and Rescue, Environmental Division. No one had any concerns with the rezoning application. This application is consistent with the village designation in the comprehensive plan and also consistent with the surrounding land uses in the area. The proposed business will add to the county's tax base without many impacts on services. Staff recommends approval of application ZM-03-21. First, the Planning Commission will take action regarding resolution PC 22-21 and the board ordinance O-32-21. If you had anything to add, Mr. Kenney, you're welcome to the podium.
Excuse me, members of the Planning Commission, members of the board. I'm John Kenney. I just want to explain what we were trying to do here. We bought the property immediately to the west of where the ordinary is, and our sole goal in that was kind of expand the ordinary grounds and to use one of the buildings. The other building we tore down because we felt it was dilapidated and we needed, would add to the space of around the ordinary. But we're just planning at this point to use the office, the building that had at one time been an office, to put it in as an office so that we can use all of the buildings on the ordinary site for for overnight or weekly stays as we planning as an event center for weddings and other events. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but I don't have anything else to add. Thank you.
I will open up the citizens' comment portion of the public hearing. And remember to turn my mic on and off. Thank you. So let the record show no one has signed up for the citizens' comment portion, so I will close the citizens' comment portion of the public hearing, and I will close the public hearing for application ZM-03-21, John Kenney rezoning, and turn it back over to you, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Is there any additional discussion from any of the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I'll entertain a motion if you'd like.
Please do.
In order to address and protect and promote the public convenience, necessity, the general welfare, and good zoning practices in the county, I move to adopt the resolution number PC 2221 to forward application ZM-03-21 to the New Kent County Board of Supervisors with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, to forward a favorable recommendation of ZM-03-21. How say you, Ms. Thomas?
Aye.
Mr. Tiller?
Abstain.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Ms. Butler?
Aye.
Dr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mr. Moyer?
Aye.
Ms. Townsend?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
Ms. Rose?
Aye.
The motion carries, Chairwoman.
Thank you. Now the protocol is to turn it over to the supervisors?
Yes, they'll deliberate and if they have any questions, and then take action.
Thank you, Sheriff. You want me to do that again? So I guess I'll open the public hearing
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, the public hearing that was open by the Planning Commission was a joint public hearing. So therefore, there's no need. Definitely, you can ask the public if there are any additional comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Vice Chair.
yes. I'll answer to both.
Okay, thank you so much. I would just like to say that I think that the project that has been ongoing in our district, in District 3, I think that it would be an asset to the county. I think that it is a historical site, and I think that it will add to opportunities because it appears, as one of our previous supervisors has said, we are a wedding county. And so it's just one more place to get married in beautiful New Kent County. And so if we have no other comments, I have a motion.
Mr. Vice Chair, I would say this is probably the fastest recommendation we've ever gotten from the Planning Commission. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I would concur.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Page, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I recommend that application ZM03-21 ordinance 0-32-21 be accepted or approved or passed.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Ms. Yitzi, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Tiller?
Aye.
Ms. Page? Aye. Mr. Steers?
Aye.
Mr. Lockwood?
Aye.
Mr. Edelman?
Thank you. New business? Is that correct? And that, Mr. Hathaway, are you taking that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Last month, I think it was last month, it might have been the month prior, we had a meeting with the chair and vice chair of the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, and we thought that we would open the discussion up to the group as a whole. And the meeting was regarding, now that we've completed our strategic plan, the Envision New Kent strategic plan, which all of you have received a copy of, the meeting was regarding what the next steps would be. And from the beginning, we saw this as a three-step process. The first step being the strategic plan. Once that's completed, then we would move to our comprehensive plan, kind of narrow our focus to land use. And then the third step being the rewrite of our subdivision and zoning ordinance, which is our enforcement of the strategic plan and the comprehensive plan. We've all know that we've all identified issues with our zoning ordinance, some inconsistencies here and there, zoning and subdivision ordinance. But we really believe that we need to know the vision and have a clear understanding of our goals before we start writing laws and policies. So as we move on to our comprehensive plan, which is the next step, I have passed out, well, I haven't passed, but Kelly has passed out a copy of a draft, and this is in draft format, and I'm passing this out to solicit your comments, not just tonight, but please take it home, read it, and send me your comments, of a draft request for proposals for a consultant to lead our comprehensive plan update. We do see this as a process being led by a consultant and also with a steering committee as well. And I ask you to think about what that steering committee may look like. And I'm just throwing out a recommendation of a 10-member committee. a committee that would consist of a member appointed by the board from each district, 2 at-large members, 2 planning commissioners sitting on that committee, and I think it would be good to have a representative from the Economic Development Authority on that committee too, as they deal a lot primarily with land development. This steering committee would work closely with the consultant, but prior to that, I see this steering committee working closely in the procurement process to select a consultant. Similar to what we did with the strategic plan, and it worked. I mean, the strategic plan was even a larger group. I believe it started off with about 15 individuals. It kind of dwindled down. We had a couple people move outside of the county as the process moved forward. But during the strategic plan, that committee was involved with every detail of the procurement process. They reviewed, they approved the proposal. We put it out to bid. They reviewed all the proposals. And we had a very good response for the strategic plan. We had 20 proposals, which I was hoping for 5 starting the process. So we were very fortunate. But they had a very difficult task because a lot of those proposals were very good proposals, and it was a difficult decision to make. And then once the pool was narrowed down to about 4 or 5, we called those vendors in, those consultants in, and the steering committee met with those selected consultants and ultimately not made a decision because only the board can hire and contract, but they made a recommendation to take to the Board of Supervisors to move forward with in the form of a contract. I throw that out as a similar process, and I am open to suggestions. I just think that process worked well and would like for you to think about that as we move forward. With the request for a proposal, I would really ask that you really kind of focus on the first 5 pages or so. Number 1 being the focus, the purpose. I think this is a very important section because this really introduces New Kent County to any potential vendor and gives them a feel of what's important to New Kent and some background data as well. I've talked about our population being the 2nd fastest growing locality in the Commonwealth. I try to emphasize the fact that we value our rural character. And as we go through the planning process, that is extremely important to us. I've also tried to emphasize the fact that the process that we're asking the consultant to come up with really needs to be a transparent process, full of opportunities for public engagement. And we want the consultant to kind of think outside of the box as far as how they reach the public. You know, I think state code only requires we post a couple of notices in the newspaper and on our board that nobody really sees. That's not going to make it for this process. We want to reach people any and every way that we can, and we're really asking whoever we select as a consultant to be creative. Section 2 is a draft timeline. These dates may change as we finalize this document, but I wanted you to see the process that's involved in selecting a consultant. If we can put this document together in final form in a week, we could potentially put this out to bid, advertise it next Monday, September 27th. Given approximately a month for vendors to submit proposals with the due date of October 28th. I always like to put a deadline for written questions. A lot of times there are a lot of questions that vendors will ask because they're not familiar with the county, which is fine. I like questions. but I want to give everybody a fair opportunity to review those questions. So as I get these questions, I'm going to put an addendum out. So I have a hard deadline of October 20th for written questions, so I can put an addendum out by the end of that week, so that everyone can see all the questions and all the responses that have been involved in this process. I see most of the month of November as reviewing the proposals, narrowing down the firms that we want to meet with, interviewing those firms, and then negotiating a contract, a draft contract, to present to the Board of Supervisors at their work session in November, which is November 24th. If everything goes as planned, we get a contract finalized into the board to review at their November work session. We hope to have a notice to proceed to the consultant on December 1 to begin the planning process. This is not set in stone because what you have before you is a rough draft. I hope you do have the opportunity to go through it and review it and send me your comments so that we can finalize this document. And it's important to me that before we put it out there that we all feel comfortable with this document as well. After the anticipated timeline, we go into the scope of services. And again, emphasizing public participation. We're asking that the consultant develop a brand, a theme, a slogan for our comprehensive plan, just as we did with the strategic plan. You know, Envision New Kent was developed by our consultant with the assistance of our steering committee. And even a logo that goes with it, which was great on our marketing and all of our public outreach. So when people saw this logo, they knew that it was the strategic plan. I'm going to pause real quick and see if there's any questions.
Rodney,
Yes.
I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
As far as the timeline.
Sure.
You mentioned that you got 20 proposals for the strategic plan. What was the timeline on the strategic plan?
You mean from the date of advertising to the date of acceptance? It was a month.
It was a month.
Yes. And normally that's usually what I do for most procurements. I give a month. These vendors, these consultants, a lot of times, you know, they really don't even need a month because a lot of their proposal is already put together. They need to just plug in New Kent information, which kind of worries me because we don't want boilerplate stuff. But that happens a lot.
Well, I guess let me clarify. Yeah, a month is completely appropriate for the submittal of but from the receipt of those, all those proposals, going through and reviewing all of them, what was the timeline like for the strategic plan?
That was
I'm just
probably
trying to get an idea.
That process was probably a month and a half, actually, 2 months.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that it could have been condensed, but it was about 2 months.
It was about a month and a half, you're right. Yeah. And the key part was we were able to throw out a number of them, either because of cost or not very comprehensive. We had probably 10 really good ones, and that we spent the time on. So I don't know if the same thing happens with comp plans, you know, as does with strategic. But we did able to dwindle it down pretty quick, but then it took a little while.
Yeah, and, you know, you probably remember, you know, we had rating criteria for each of the proposals, and we reviewed all the proposals against that criteria. We're also proposing criteria in this draft RFP2, which we would review the proposals against too. I know it's in here. Actually, section V, and I've already found a correction I need to make. For some reason, I lost my page numbering after page 8, but I'll address that. This would be page 9, section V, where we list how the projects will be scored. There's 4 criteria. Demonstrated relative expertise with the development of comprehensive plans, qualifications of staffs and business preferences, 40 points. The specific plan and methodology that they would propose to use as part of our process, 30 points. Overall quality and completeness of proposal, 10 points, and proposed costs being 20 points.
Rodney, in terms of, I know that this is, you said this timeline isn't etched in stone.
Right. No.
The idea that you're going to get comments back and get this finalized in a week, and we don't have this steering committee established, I just question that timeline.
Yeah.
Where do you see the intersection of the setting the steering committee members and then them having input into this process?
Yeah. Again, this is really just for our reference, so you would have an idea of how long this process would take. Again, this is a very rough draft, and a lot of work would have to be done to get this document ready in a week. So we'll start when we're ready. Again, I want everyone to feel comfortable with this document before we start, and that September 27th is not a hard date. It's not etched in stone.
They're placeholders. They're just placeholders for dates.
They're placeholders, yes. But I think the question, too, is at what point will we start assembling the steering committee? And if you agree with this process, I would like to start working on that now at your upcoming meetings. If you're okay with the composition that I've mentioned, and I'll go through it again, I would like you to start thinking about who from the Planning Commission would like to sit on this steering committee. I'd also like the board to start thinking about appointments to the steering committee, and I'll present to the EDA and I'll get with their chairman so we can start thinking about who from the EDA would like to serve on this committee. So the sooner the better we can start on.
But just a comment on that, we have roughly 15 people that have it in front of us now, and there's only really 5 pages to look at because the rest is boilerplate that you have to put in for RFPs anyway. I think we should be able to look at it in the next few days and get back to Rodney on anything he needs.
So, Mr. Chair, I have a question. So, Mr. Hathaway, my question is, are we doing a revision of our current comp plan, or are we doing a total rewrite of our current comp plan?
Legally, the legal term is an update of our comprehensive plan.
Excuse me.
But
Are we doing an update of our current?
essentially, it is a rewrite of our comprehensive plan. But the state code says the comp plan has to be updated every so many years, and I think it might be 10, it might be 20. But the state code term is update, but essentially this is a very extensive rewrite of our comp plan. But, you know, just because we say, or I just said it's a rewrite, that doesn't mean we're just going to take this document, throw it out, and start all over. One of the things we're going to ask the consultant to do is review our existing comp plan, and there definitely will probably be components of this plan that we keep and continue. There'll be probably a lot of things that change just because the county's changed, but definitely this will be the building block for the new plan.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman? Yeah, I also kind of wrote down a tight timeline for that first step if we were going to actually pull this off in a week. But I do agree with Mr. Moyer that, you know, the part that needs to be reviewed is not significant. And I think the quicker we can move forward with getting the RFP out, I don't think there's a lot that needs to be covered. The first 5 pages, really, a lot of it is just verbiage in a contract. So I'd like to see us try to get the information together. If we don't hit the mark, that's fine. But, you know, if we can try to follow this anticipated timeline, you know, we just wrapped up the strategic plan. I think this should be probably slated as a major rewrite or major update to the comp plan. Whichever you prefer, Ms. Bates. But, you know, I think now is the time to get that going. And the selection process that we used for the strategic plan, I thought went very well. It was really quick moving down to those last 5 proposals, and that's where we got to spend some real time on good information. So I'd like to try and follow that template.
How many people?
What I'm recommending is 5 appointed members from each district by the board, 2 at-large members, 7, 2 planning commissioners, and 1 EDA member, a total of 10 members. Mm-hmm. Well, the board will do 7 appointments, 2 at large, yes.
If I could, one thing I will say with our strategic plan, kudos, and even more than that, I think that the appointments that were made and the amount of work that they did, that was done on the strategic plan, it absolutely required a dedication and a commitment and vision for our county. This will be and absolutely will not be just a document to sit on the shelf. It'll be the comprehensive plan that will combine with our strategic plan for decisions made, i.e. in the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. I mean, I know we get recommendations, and the recommendations are based on this, but however, as we see our county growing, we look at, I look at things like the Bottoms Bridge overlay, how great has that changed with our buildings coordinating. We look at our post office down here. Did you notice that it resembles the courthouse at all? Absolutely, you know, and so we have a lot of building to do. We look at the ordinary that's coming up, and so, I mean, it will keep us in line with our overall look and feel of our county, and so to do that, we absolutely need appointees with that will think outside of the box, that will think vision, but we need people with history of our county as well, because we can never lose history. And so, but I think for me, when I make an appointment, those are the decisions that I weigh on when making an appointment. And then, how much time is this going to take? And it's going to take commitment and time to do this. So when we think about appointments, and if you think about somebody, I'm absolutely open. If you got somebody just let me know, you know, and I'll just let them know. It is going to take commitment and time to do this, whether we do a rewrite or update or legally or however we want to say it, it absolutely is, because it will be a living, breathing document that we will be using. So thank you for that.
Rodney, if I can ask a question. One of the things that Ms. Page just mentioned about is that decisions in the future will be based from the comprehensive plan, which is going to be made up because of the strategic plan. Are we going to give them a cheat sheet with the RFP? Because I don't see anything in the first 5 pages that talk about the strategic plan.
Well,
and if we're going to have a comprehensive plan based on this, I think either we need to tell them that they should come look for it, or give them one.
Well, not just yes, definitely, and that's a good comment. I can definitely put a comment in here about the strategic plan. There's also some other plans that they really need to be attuned to and review. A very heavy point, a big point of a comp plan is a transportation analysis. And we've had some plans done. We've done some corridor studies. We've done a study of 106. We're in the process of doing a corridor study, or VDOT is in the process of doing a corridor study in Route 60 in Bottoms Bridge and Route 33 going to Eltham from New Kent Highway to the bridge. They're just starting a corridor study there too. So definitely they need to be aware of these studies, and I can include language about that. Oh, yes, and we have several utility plans, which is a big driver and guide to development. So, yeah.
Rodney, are those all compiled and published out on the county website? To where you could
The
you could
strategic plan is.
Well, I know the strategic plan is, but I'm talking about some of the other items.
I believe that some of our utility plans are. I know our water conservation plan, I think that's on the utility page. I'll make sure that these plans that I reference are on our page as well. Now, some plans are underway,
Yeah.
so they're not. But yes, we'll make them available.
Mr. Hathaway, I have a question for you. I hate to go back to this anticipated timeline, but I have to ask this question. Do we have a backup timeline for this? When I'm looking at the anticipated timeline, I see November and December. Well, I see the months coming, but when I look through at some of the descriptions here, you know, I'm immediately thinking about the consultants that would put in for this RFP and the holidays and vacations and things that's coming in with this timeline. So I just want to know, is there some type of backup to this? I know this is not final, so.
Yeah, and you know, I was thinking holidays too, and I tried to get most of the work done before we get into Thanksgiving and Christmas, because I know, and we all know, things slow down. People are traveling, they're not in the office, and it's hard to get documents signed and things done during the holiday period. But yes, if we need to push any of these dates back, we'll just have to do that. But I kind of went in this with the intent of wrapping the majority of this before we get into the holiday season.
Mr. Hathaway?
Yes.
One of the things that I think I brought up at our meeting a month and a half ago is that there needs to be a continuity of progression through this process. And one of the key things for that, to enable that to be secured or be insured, is the same personnel, or almost the same personnel, through the entire process. So there's no relearning of what has been experienced when you go from the RFP to the comprehensive plan, to the zoning ordinance, and those rewrites or updates. So this is a long-term project. We're anticipating, 12 to 18 months on the comprehensive plan and 12 to 18 months on the zoning ordinance rewrite. So we're talking upwards to 3 years, and it would really be fruitful and beneficial if the same members of the steering committee, or most of them, be steered right on through that process. So I think some of the timeline, in my opinion, is going to be determined on how we procure those people who want to volunteer their time to do this work project. And then also their schedules in order to see it through.
I agree. Continuity is important. Now, I've not talked to any of the people that served on the steering committee for the strategic plan. I'm not sure if they have an interest. I mean, I don't know if they've gotten burned out through that process. But I don't mind reaching out to them. One good thing about continuity is Kelly and I and several other department heads were directly involved in the strategic planning process, and we will be involved in the comprehensive planning process as well. So from a staffing standpoint, there will be continuity, and we can check with the steering committee as well.
Ronnie, I agree with Mr. Bennett on continuity. Of course I would, but I was on the steering committee. But in saying that, I think the one thing you brought up earlier was we started out at a higher number, 15 or so, but we really ended up with 8, 8 or 9, okay? It might be an idea that maybe we should start with a higher number than 10, because we are possibly, those volunteers are devoting maybe 3 years. And if people have plans of leaving the area in a couple of years, it may not be the best thing for them. So that's just an idea that maybe we go with a few more than that.
That's a good comment.
When we get to the portion of zoning, that won't be a steering committee that does the zoning ordinance, will it?
It can be. I also anticipate that will be led by a consultant as well, and there's many consultants out there that write zoning ordinance, subdivision ordinance. But I really haven't thought that far along as far as the process. I mean, it can be, or it could just be staff.
Okay.
All right. Well, I like the idea of adding more people, And I know some people would say you don't want a group too big, but I'm not opposed to big boards. And I think it's value in that too. It's more comments, more trains of thoughts, and hopefully we'll end up with a much better project. I'll go back and think about that because we did. I mean, things just came up during the strategic plan process. I mentioned we had a couple people moved. We had a gentleman whose parents got ill, and he had to spend more time taking care of his parents. That's just life.
We had one become a supervisor too.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Rodney, I was just going to say, would it be worth entertaining the idea of having two from each district designated to essentially tag team it, where there would be a more consistent train of thought and there would be equitable representation?
Yes. In fact, we've done that before. I believe when we did the zoning ordinance rewrite committee, I think we had 2 from each. I mean, we had like 17 people on that committee. Yes.
I'm just wondering if there's anybody in the room that's ready to make a 3-year voluntary commitment.
I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering if there's anybody in the room that's ready to make a 3-year voluntary commitment, since we're going to have 2 people from the Planning Commission that are going to be on this board.
Yeah.
It's interesting you said that, because we at that meeting, we discussed, maybe this subset should be 2 members from every district, maybe some youth. I mean, look at us, we're gray hair people here, but some youth involved, okay? Okay,
Yeah,
I'm looking at a mirror.
We're talking real color.
We were talking about some board members being involved, and we're also looking at that continuity that, some of us may not be here just because we elect not to be here, move out, but some of us may not be here because the poll says we not be here. So, yes, it is a commitment. I think last session that we met, there was some people who identified that they would be willing to make the time for that commitment. That's sitting before you right now.
Good.
One other thing that I think I'd like to recommend that the Board of Supervisors consider is appointing an AFD advisory member as a member at large for the steering committee.
Yes.
Just to have, considering the agricultural, forestal component is such a big component out in this area, and it does impact the comp plan. So,
and I forgot to mention too, all boards, we charter our committees and boards. I will draft a charter for the Comprehensive Plan Committee, and I'll review that, and I'll send that to everyone for your review, and that will include the composition, election of officers. It's basically their bylaws. So I will incorporate the comments that I've received today into a draft charter, and I'll send that out, and please send me your comments on that, and we'll revise it as needed. And as far as timing as well, this charter definitely I can have drafted and to you by the end of this week, but for review, but to the board for review and consideration at their October regular meeting. And if that's adopted, then you guys can make your appointments following that. Okay.
is there any other discussion?
Any of the board members have any other volunteers or discussion? Thank you, Ms. Page. Ms. Yutzi, would you poll the members?
Aye.
Aye.
That's just for them. Yeah. We have to finish.
Excuse me. I don't have a chairman's report. I think what we discussed here tonight is plenty. Is there a plan RVA?
Yes, there was a meeting last week, and we talked about Plan RVA and other public outreach. And one of the things I'm going to be checking with them is the public outreach on the type of information that we need to go forward with the comprehensive plan. Their willingness to disseminate data, and that can be used for our benefit, just like any other jurisdiction in the area. And the other comment was their budget has been approved, and it's going forward on track to have the funds that will be needed at the end of the year. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Moyer. Are there any other reports from the other commissioners? Moving on, staff reports. Kelly?
Yeah, I have one item. I've got some solar projects that are still floating out there, as you guys know. One of the groups has a potential timeline to give you guys a presentation at your October meeting. I haven't heard any finalized commitment from them yet. And then in the future, maybe November or December, when Rodney does the CIP public hearings, we have to have those meetings. There's also an ordinance amendment to come before you to increase the building height in some of our zoning classifications, maximum building heights of some of these buildings. But other than that, I didn't get any public hearing applications in today for the October meeting, so we can talk about if we want to have a meeting or not, but it depends on these presentations too.
Kelly, the presentation for the solar, it's the same group?
No. That group on the project on 106 that came to speak to you guys in December, I think it was.
They actually appeared
yeah,
twice.
I haven't heard anything from them, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. I'm assuming they're not moving forward, but you never know.
There's a whole
yeah,
other
these are smaller
separate-
scale. There's one that's been talking to us in the Weir Creek Industrial Park, kind of by the jail, some of that property out there, and then two other smaller scale projects, one way up near the Hanover County line, and another one near the existing solar project in Barhamsville. So they're still working out their details.
Second question I have is, there was mention, maybe not last month, but the month before, that there was earshot of individual, small community, self-sustaining solar projects. Any more on that?
No, I haven't heard back from that group. That was kind of like a neighborhood community solar project, and we haven't heard from them. That was that Haley's Hill or something like that. So nope, I get a lot of inquiries, and then 1 in 10 will come in with something. So any other staff reports? Did I miss anything, you guys? No? Rodney? Just CIP coming up. Stay tuned, CIP's coming up. November, December. Time flies.
So Kelly, you will let us know, because the next regular scheduled meeting would be October 18th. But that is really only if there's a need for us to come in for a presentation. Correct? Okay. All right.
Laura, do you want to talk about who wants to be on that committee so we don't slow Rodney down on the timeline for the comp plan? I know I don't want to be on it. Just putting it out there.
Let's get that out there.
That's eliminating some of it. Just so nobody.
puts me in, right? You're gonna be secretary.
Okay. Duly noted. Yeah, as far as the planning commission members, is there anybody particularly interested in it? I mean, I know I'm interested in doing it, but I also I don't always have a lot of time, and I'm not going to stand in anybody's way.
Well, I was committed to offer last time, so.
Well, yeah,
And I will serve if needed or wanted. So.
yeah, and what we talked, excuse me, what we had talked about last time was really just the initial commitment for the procurement and not the more extended for the whole process. So there again, everybody needs to consider their schedules and their ability to commit to that type of timeline. At least the 12 to 18 months, and preferably, you know, running through some continuity through the zoning ordinance rewrite as well.
And Madam Chair, not to usurp Mr. Davis in representation district, I'm very interested too, but I look at more of my position as being there when you're not there, because I think it's important for our chairman to be on this steering committee too, not just other members of our group, but to have the chairman. So I'm going to be following along as closely as I can.
But that will probably change through the 3 years also. I mean.
That could be for everybody. Yeah.
Can we draft something like that where the roles on the committee might change? I don't know I can't think of any other boards that really do that. Or like if someone needs to leave, they find their replacement or.
Well, I think the good thing is we got flexibility. This is all.
Yeah, I mean it's.
You could appoint an alternate, or I mean, you could say that one of the positions will be the chair. Keep in mind that position may change throughout the process. Keep in mind each year when you go through the election.
I think, or it could be preemptive for the next one.
The thing that I also look at too is even if any of the members of the planning commission are not specifically on the steering committee, there's still a lot of input that can be given to the steering committee, and your voice can be heard. So,
Amy, you're not off the hook. Forgive me, Rodney, but how many were we allotted?
Two. But if you want to appoint an alternate,
yeah.
Tommy, you and me.
When Laura said something earlier about people that had committed before I thought maybe you were one of them. And I don't have a problem with that.
I won't be on as a member of the planning commission. I'll be a member of District 2.
Oh, okay.
Can we do that? That's good. If I appoint John as my representative?
So we're double dipping.
I hear you.
Okay. Thank you, John. We just got some work.
So we need 6 members, right? 6 from the planning commission. 2 from the planning, okay, okay. There's no opportunity to stagger this thing? Once you're in, you're in. Yeah, stagger. For example, if someone like me, my schedule is totally booked until December 1st. Now, after December 1st, I have more flexibility, but right now I can't. But I'm not saying I won't volunteer. So, and that's not any. That's not the same thing, Amy. I'm just saying I could, but I can't do it until December 1st.
And for your sake, I think Rodney and the rest and Laura would agree with me. The continuity of having people on this task force really starts when we get into the comprehensive plan, not on the selection or the review of the RFP. It's on the comprehensive plan and rolling that over into the zoning ordinance. Working with the consultants. That's when the intensity really starts. I think it's, my personal opinion, I think it's all of us, including the board's review of the RFP document in helping selection of the consultant, okay? But getting the public involved, getting this commission involved, getting the board involved really starts the timeline once that consultant is selected. And maybe there's a possibility to roll on, but I think the continuity of retaining that staff or that task force really begins there. You don't want to re-educate new people every 12 months.
Or less.
And I'm over speaking, but I don't want to outcast any public involvement either. They have to be part of it. But I anticipate there's going to be a lot of outreach, a lot of community jam sessions that they can totally get involved in. And the task force at the planning, they're going to be guiding, along with the staff, guiding this to get the document finalized. Get the important parts out.
All right, well, has everybody had enough discussion for one night? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.